Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, on this fan-based podcast, which is band endorsed, which is really awesome. And boy, I got a song for you guys today. One I've just loved. It's one that just always kind of pops in my head at random times over the last 30 or so years, and it always makes me smile. Devil's Daughter is the one that we're talking about today. But first, it's Monday. Welcome to a new week, guys. I hope that you're, being safe on your commute, enjoying your jog, your walk, whatever it is that you're doing. Hope you had a great weekend. And it's always good to start the week with a little bit of gratitude and a little bit of, news and updates and whatnot. So the first thing is, if you guys haven't been over to the official Uriah Heep website, uriah-heep.com, there is a treasure trove of things, just tons of pages of things to dig through, video clips. You can order really cool merchandise. They got some pics and shirts and cool stuff. The anniversary edition, 500,000 Spotify followers banner on the site, which looks absolutely beautiful. It's just amazing. And Mick had just mentioned that they hit, I think it was 10,000 on Instagram. Instagram's kind of a weird thing. It's like we kind of post there, but nobody really pushes that format. It's strange. And then there's people that like post constantly. I'm like, how do you have time to make 32 tiny little video clips to put up on this thing every day? I don't know how people do that. It just baffles me. Because these are people that are busy doing things. So it always fascinates me how they find time to do that. But in any case, congratulations. Those are some amazing milestones. Of course, nothing beats 40 million albums sold over the last 50 years. That's just unfathomable to me still. Every time I think about it, I'm just blown away. But it just goes to show how many people love this band and how many people love the music. And to think about coming up with an idea and recording it and hoping that people like it, and then over the course of the years selling that many copies of your ideas, God, that's just amazing to know that your work has touched that many lives. And tenfold, because who knows how many people have just said, hey, you should check this out. And then other people check it out. And then there's all those people on Spotify that aren't buying albums, but they're still listening. So you have to look at that as an exponential thing and think that the reach has been far greater than 40 million albums sold for sure. But in any case, and then there's people like me that have bought them like 2 and 3 times. So I don't really know how I ruin that statistic, but in any case, here we are. So I want to let you guys know we are, once again, it's the middle of the month. So make sure that you get on the mailing list, which you can find on the website for this podcast at www.scotthaskin.com. Go all the way down to the bottom and sign up for the mailing list. That will get you one entry into the contest where I give away something every month. And then if you want more entries, and if you would also like to help the show, you can join the Patreon for as little as $1, and that will get you a bonus entry without having to sign up for the mailing list. And if you sign up for the mailing list, that gives you 3. So it gets pretty out of control, or, that's pretty much as out of control as I get anyway. I'm such a party guy. But there are people that are absolutely generous and wonderful that have signed up for the Patreon. And I'd like to thank them as I do every week, because I appreciate it so much. And I really mean that. At $5 a month is Kenny Wymore. Thank you, Kenny. At the $3 tier, we have Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, and Frank Thielgaard Mortensen. Thank you, gentlemen. It is very much appreciated. And of course, it goes without saying, but I will say it anyway, the unobtainable at the $1 tier, Airtight Gravesite. That's just such a great name. I love that. Remember, you can follow the show in all kinds of places. We are on Podbean. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher, Spotify, all the places. And I really don't care if you listen on Spotify for the podcast. That's fine. The podcast is not a profit-bearing thing. So if you're, I'm not getting paid for plays on Spotify like I do with my music. So if you go there to listen to the show, that's absolutely fine. I don't get paid anywhere for listens on the show. So Spotify is great for that. I have issues with how the whole structure works, as many artists do, but I'm not going to get into that political thing because that's not what the show is about. But as I have made comments about how Spotify does potentially hurt some artists' income, I will say for things like podcasts, it's absolutely fine because there's no money there anyway. So a couple other people I really want to thank. My graphic artist, Scott Lizinski, who did a beautiful job on both the day and night version logos and then the small round version logos of this show. Absolutely love what he did. Get a lot of compliments on it. Thank you, Scott. My dear friends at Audionamics, who I will not do a podcast of any kind without IDC, your instant dialogue cleaner. Absolutely just an amazing tool. Probably the one thing in my studio that I could not live without. I could find a way around everything else, but that would be the one thing that I don't even want to bother thinking about what would happen if that just disappeared from existence. If there was some sort of the Mandela effect. If there was some sort of Mandela effect where instant dialogue cleaner didn't work, I would have to find a way to jump into a parallel universe where it existed again, because that would just be horrible. And, I met Sinbad. Well, I didn't meet him, but I saw him. I made room for him as he was in a wheelchair at the time, having just had surgery. But I saw Sinbad at the 2020 NAMM show. Apparently, and I did not know this, he's quite a bass player. But whenever I think about the Mandela effect, I think about that story about the, was it Shazam movie, I think? And I'm on the team where I swear to God I've seen it. I swear to God I've seen that movie with him in it and everything. And he denies it. And that's fine. I don't have any proof of its existence, but it's the weirdest thing because in my memory, I'm one of those people that's on Team Shazam. I've seen it. I swear to God I have. Or I just have had a really weird memory implanted into my head. I will take either option at this point. So thank all of you guys. Now, Dave White is awesome, and he does the Uriah Heep website. He does all the social media stuff. I think everything except Instagram, but he is the director of the band's social media. He also does Mick Box's site as well, and just does a hell of a job. I mean, he's been doing this for so long, and if you go to uriah-heep.com and you see the hundreds of pages, all the detail, all the amazing history and videos and everything that's there, that's mostly Dave's work. I mean, he had some people helping him for a while in the beginning, like 30 years ago. But man, he has just poured so much into that. It's a beautiful site. Go and check it out. Also, there are wonderful people in the podcast network that have just been of great help and support. And some of them have come on the show. With the rest of them, I'm working on, times for them to be on. Got some great guests coming up. Some you may know, some you may not. But in any case, my brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, or I should say hashtag Deep Dive Podcast Network, over at the Deep Purple Podcast, who have just celebrated their 100th episode. By the time this airs, it'll be 101 episodes. So cool that I got them a cameo for their show. I had Christine Lakin from Step by Step do a cameo for their 100th anniversary, and that was so much fun. She's so sweet. And gave a great greeting to them. She was on a show, Step by Step. Deep Purple, on their last album, had a song called Step by Step. And so it just seemed like a perfect person, and she was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And so Nate and John over at the Deep Purple Podcast, once again, congratulations on making it this far. I'm creeping up on, I don't know, I've got to be somewhere in the 80s right now. I'll have to look. But it's getting up there. But I'm doing 4 shows a week, so it's kind of not fair. You know, they've been at this for a couple of years, doing 1 show a week every single week, and they've done a great job. So well researched. It's a lot of fun to listen to. And some other fun shows are Skinnerd Reconsidered with our friend The Simple Man. We've got T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side with Terry T-Bone Mathley, and Sabbath Bloody Podcast with Rye, who has surpassed all of the Black Sabbath songs, because he's been at this way longer, and he's working through the Ozzy Osbourne stuff, has a lot of fun people on. And then there's Paul, Joe, and David over at the Lap of the Pods, the Queen podcast, and of course, my good buddy Brandon over at Metallicast, who has been on a recent episode. I had to break that up into 4 parts because we just kept talking, and it was a lot of fun. Also, if you're into the history and trivia of live music of the bands Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and some other fun tidbits, go check out gottahear'emall.com and see what our friend Allegra has put together on her website. It's absolutely fantastic. Follow her on Twitter. She posts there about all the new articles coming out. Really detailed stuff, very well researched, and always interesting and entertaining. And then, of course, the band's manager, Ace, has his own podcast, Ace on Music, which you can get at Stitcher and YouTube. A fantastic show digging into a lot of interesting aspects of music from the standpoint of someone who is not only a fan of music, but as a band manager of bands like Uriah Heep and Thin Lizzy. He's been to a lot of festivals and, he knows a lot of the guys, and he's just got so many interesting stories. And he's done some interviews himself over the years that he's played on the show. Really fascinating show. So I would highly suggest checking that out. I really enjoy it myself. And I'm not just saying that. Every one of these shows, I absolutely enjoy listening to when I have the time. Unfortunately, I'm starting to fall behind again because of a project I'm working on, but that's beside the point. So make sure that you follow the show at this show anyway on Facebook. We are at facebook.com/Uriah Heep Podcast. On Twitter, we are at Heep Podcast. Instagram, Uriah Heep Podcast. And our email is uriahheeppodcast@gmail.com. That's the one that you want to sign up to get into the drawing for the contest. The other option is Patreon, of course, which you can also find at the bottom of the website. So that is all the stuff that we need to talk about before we get to the song. So the next thing we could do is get to the song. So let us check out this wonderful song from Return to Fantasy. Devil's Daughter is the third track on the album. Just have one version of it for you guys. That's all that I've heard. That's all that's available on the deluxe CD. I've not seen any other versions of it. But you know what? It's such a great song that we're just going to enjoy the fact that we have it. And here is Devil's Daughter by Uriah Heep from the album Return to Fantasy. So we've got a really interesting introduction here for this is the first time I've heard Uriah Heep play something quite like this. It could be, I want to say I heard a cowbell in something at one point. I can't remember which song it was now, but I don't think that this is our first cowbell experience. But anyway, one thing that's really interesting is, so we've got a guitar that starts off in the left ear, but it really kind of feels like it's in the background. It's not, up front in your face. And then I can hear in the left ear, whatever guitar track, whoever's playing that, I can hear them get ready to play because there's a couple of clicks, like maybe they're putting their fingers down on the fretboard or something. So that's kind of interesting. And then they start playing, and there's a really just interesting drum beat here with the cowbell. It kind of changes things up a little bit from what we're used to, but the hi-hat is like really in the background, and then when the kick and snare come in, they're much more in the front. So it's kind of a weird mix for me now that I'm dissecting it a little bit. I'm so used to just hearing these songs and not really thinking about this stuff, because when I first heard them, I wasn't into being an audio engineer, so I just kind of took them as this is how they sound and didn't really think much about them. And I might have noticed things, but didn't really dig into it or think much of it beyond that. But now that I'm kind of listening to it through a more experienced audio engineer ear, I mean, I've been an engineer for 30 years now, or going on 30 years. So it's a little bit different of an experience. Plus, we've got remix and remaster. We've got better headphones, so you can really hear the depth in things than we could back then. So, it's an interesting mix. It sounds good. It doesn't throw the song off too much, but I think it just sounds a little bit different than what we're used to. I really like the bass on this. It's got a great groove to it. It sounds good. I like the tonality of it. It almost sounds like he's playing finger because I'm not hearing that harder pluck of the string, but he's probably playing with a pick. But in any case, it just sounds good. It's a great groove. I love the technicality of this song. It's really it adds such a dynamic to it. Like sometimes it's good to back off on a song and just let the emotion come out. And sometimes it's nice to be aggressive and do something a little bit more technical. Coming off of the first two songs on this album, we've seen some more, aggressive bass from John Wetton. So, as I've said, he definitely fits right into this band. He came in without skipping a beat from Gary Thane's position, and it just sounds really good. And the groove is good. The drums, I really like what they're playing. It's very interesting. Guitars and keyboards holding it together. It just sounds really good. And then, of course, as I say on every song, such a powerful delivery on vocals. Yeah, very nice there. And then going back into, what we heard in the opening of the song. And what I realized, I was thinking that maybe that section with the cowbell was actually in 7/8 time. It just had a feeling to me that maybe there was one beat missing. And I went back and counted it. And sure enough, it's actually 8 beats. So it's regular 4/4 common time rock music. But man, it just, when you have something that kind of throws you off of the norm a little bit, it plays like it's off time, and it just has a different feel to it. So I had to go back and check, but no, it's an 8. So, as a drummer who's supposed to know about time signatures, I sit corrected. What's really interesting here too is that the keyboards are just playing just very simple chords. They're not following that riff at all. Just playing very simple and thickening up the sound a little bit, which is it's kind of a nice change of pace. A lot of times they'll follow the vocal line or they'll follow the main melody of the song. But here, just even in a more aggressive song, not every instrument needs to be aggressive. It could be nice to just have some stuff that fills in the background a little bit, thickens up the sound overall. And I really like the tone on the keyboard too. It's it really balances nicely with the guitar. Well, they just didn't give me any room to speak in there at all, did they? Well, there's a lot that happened in there, and interestingly, they brought the guitars up in volume during that solo section, which was good. It wasn't at the very beginning; it was still a little bit in the background. But I really love the doubling of the keyboard and guitars, and then the interplay between the two of them. Very nicely done. I love that synth sound. I love the way that it worked with the guitar. Those two things just sounded really good together. The drums and the bass were really interesting too, the way that they changed things up. And I'm pretty sure that during the doubling section, there was a little bit of a voice going on the downbeat. I'm pretty sure I could hear something. I don't know if it was saying anything or if that was just gibberish or what that was. But I'm pretty sure I heard like a really low voice there, and then in another part throughout the solo section. But overall, I mean, the overall sound of it was just fantastic, very powerful, great interplay. It's not often that you see, one of those kind of almost duels between a guitar player and a keyboard player that sounds good. Usually, a lot of the ones that I've heard, especially live from bands, they tend to just kind of wander off and they're not like in sync with what each other are doing. They're just kind of playing their own thing and going, well, I play from bar 1 to 4, and then he's going to play 5 through 8. So I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and then he'll do whatever, and then it's my turn again. I kind of feel like they're not really, in harmony with each other. And here it was very much a playful exchange between the two. So I really enjoyed that. Really long passage, but that could have gone on for another minute, and I would have been perfectly happy to just keep listening to it and enjoying it. So love that part. Yes, what a great concert ending to that. Very powerful song. I really love Lee Kerslake's playing during this. He's very active, but not overplaying. I love that. He's got some very powerful fills. He's keeping a really interesting beat through this, doing some cool stuff. And it really, I think this is one of the songs that shows him off a little bit more. And love what John Wetton played, especially at the end. I love just this low bass sound. I don't know what he's using. I don't know what his setup was, but I want to say that was maybe a phase distortion that's on his bass. It definitely has something on it. It's not a clean bass sound, but it works. It's not so heavily distorted that it's over the top or annoying. It complements the rest of the instruments very well. Just a great sound overall. Love the guitar work, love the keyboards, love the vocal. I mean, I could just say nothing but good things about this song. Except that I still say that the mix is kind of weird with the placement of the hi-hat and a little bit weird on the guitar placement. But apart from that, the overall balance of it was pretty good. And just a great song. And it's easy to understand why just randomly that song will pop into my head, because it's so catchy. The melody's catchy, the rhythm is catchy, the vocal line is catchy. Just, it's going to happen to you guys. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. And the only thing that you can do about it, they say, when you can't get a song out of your head, they say the best thing to do is just listen to the song. And that's supposed to, cure that craving, right? It doesn't work, or at least it doesn't work for me. I have tried that so many times. It happens with Salisbury all the time. I'll listen to that solo section, the 3 runs of guitar solos that Mick does. I'll listen to that and I'll just be like, okay, I got that out of my system. And then I didn't. And it will just play over and over and over until I drown it out with like 82 other songs. So, and that's just because it's good. It just stays in your head. But great song. Devil's Daughter is just absolutely fantastic. So for those of you who are maybe non-musicians and don't really know what I was talking about with the counting, I'm just going to run through a brief section there. I'm going to play that for you, and then I'm going to count I'll play it twice. I'll play it by itself, and then I'll play it again and count it so that you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to count it to 8 because it's in 8. But if it were to have stopped at 7 and started repeating there, then that would be what's called a 7/4, which is 7 notes at the value of 4 quarter notes to complete a measure. So it's in 8, so we get a full 8 notes, 8 quarter notes per 2 measures. But if it were to be in 7, then because it's 4/4, but if it were to be in 7, then it would be 7 quarter notes. Anyway, that's probably too technical. But for those of you who are non-musicians, I'll just kind of do a quick explanation of what the hell I'm talking about. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, I'm a dork and it's 8 beats and it just threw me off for a minute and I thought it might have been 7. So I proved myself wrong. Great job, guys. I've done a couple things over the years when I was playing with some jazz fusion musicians where even they were like, what time signature is that in? And I'm like, it's this. And they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like that. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Because the way that you play it, even though the count is straight, the way that you play it can throw it off a little bit. And that's what happened here. I just wanted to double check it. And now you've had a music lessons for those of you who are not musicians. And for those of you who are, you're probably just laughing anyway. So anyway, guys, that is Devil's Daughter, a great way to kick off our week. I hope that you enjoyed the show. I will be back tomorrow with another show, another one of my favorite Uriah Heep songs. And we've got 2 versions of it this time, so it should be interesting. Stay safe. Have a great Monday, guys. Get a great start to your week, and we'll see you tomorrow on Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!